Welcome to Spiritual Healing Coach, a safe space for Christian women healing from church trauma, spiritual abuse, and religious confusion. If you've been wondering, was what happened to me really that bad? Or, why can't I move on even though I left? You're not alone, and you're not overreacting. In today's video, we're gently walking through 5 signs you may be carrying religious trauma, even if no one ever used that word. These signs aren't here to label you. They're here to help you name your experience so you can begin to heal. Let's start with the first one. Sign number 1. You were pressured to stay silent. Maybe no one told you directly, don't speak. But you learned, quietly, subtly, and painfully, that your voice made people uncomfortable. You were told not to gossip, not to stir up division, not to question leadership, not to dishonor the Lord's anointed. So when you saw something that felt wrong, when something broke your heart, when someone crossed a line, you buried it. You prayed harder. You stayed quiet. Not because you were okay, but because you thought that silence was obedience. Dr. Diane Langberg tells the story of a young man who was sexually abused in church. When he told his senior pastor what happened, the pastor said, "If you want to be faithful, you'll stay quiet." And maybe no one said that exact sentence to you, but you felt it in the air. The system made you believe that protecting the church mattered more than protecting your soul. But hear me, love. God never asked you to protect a system that hurt you. If silence was used to control you, if your voice was treated as dangerous or divisive, that was not holiness. That was fear-based power trying to guard itself. Jesus never silenced the brokenhearted. He never told them to hush or move on. He listened. He healed. He told the truth, without shame. And so can you. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And you are still deeply, completely loved by God. Let's move gently into the second sign. You were taught to distrust yourself. This one is subtle and devastating. It begins with little comments. Your heart is deceitful. Feelings are flesh. Don't lean on your own understanding. And slowly, over time, you start to believe that your thoughts can't be trusted, that your emotions are wrong, that your instincts are sinful, that hearing from God must always come from someone else, someone above you. If you were trained to second-guess your own discernment, to shut down your grief, your anger, your boundaries, to believe that obedience meant ignoring your inner voice, then you weren't just taught theology, you were taught to disappear. Diane Langberg says this, "When power is misused, it often leads the vulnerable to doubt their own reality. That's not spiritual growth. That's gaslighting. You may have felt it when you walked out of a service and thought, something about that message didn't feel right. But the moment you questioned it, someone told you, that's your pride speaking. Or you spoke up about how a leader made you uncomfortable and were met with, be careful not to touch God's anointed. Over time, this strips you of the most sacred thing God gave you, your voice, your gut, your inner knowing. But here's the truth. God never asked you to silence your discernment. He created it. He speaks through it. And He will never contradict the peace of His Spirit just to preserve someone else's ego. If they taught you that real faith means never questioning, if they said emotions are weak and wisdom always lives above you, if they used Scripture to make you believe your body and your mind were enemies, then hear this now. That wasn't God. That was control disguised as reverence. Jesus never rebuked women for thinking, feeling, or asking hard questions. He welcomed it. He honored it, and He still does. You are allowed to trust your instincts. You are allowed to honor your feelings. And your voice, the one they tried to silence, is still sacred, still worthy, still loved by God. Now let's talk about the third sign. You felt afraid to question leadership or doctrine. For many Christian women, this fear didn't begin in rebellion. It began in reverence. You wanted to be respectful. You wanted to honor God. But somewhere along the way, questioning started to feel dangerous. You were told, "Don't sow doubt. Just trust your leaders." Rebellion is like witchcraft. And maybe you weren't trying to rebel. Maybe you just had honest, tender questions. Why do we treat women this way? Why are some voices always believed and others always dismissed? Is this really what Jesus wanted? But instead of being invited into deeper conversation, you were shut down, maybe even shamed. Over time, the message became clear. Obedience meant silence. Submission meant not thinking too much. Faith meant never asking why. Diane Langberg reminds us that this dynamic isn't just theological, it's psychological. When power is unaccountable, questions are seen as threats. But Jesus? He never feared questions. The woman at the well asked him hard things. Martha asked why he didn't show up sooner. Mary sat at his feet and broke cultural norms just to learn. And he didn't rebuke them. He welcomed them. You see, questioning isn't rebellion. It's relationship. It's the beginning of deeper understanding. It's what makes faith yours, not just a script you repeat out of fear. If you were taught that challenging a pastor's opinion was the same as disobeying God, if you were made to feel guilty for simply wondering if leadership used shame or spiritual jargon to avoid accountability, that's not God's design. That's spiritual control. And maybe today, you still flinch when you hear certain phrases. Maybe part of you wonders if it's okay to even watch this video. That's how deep it goes. But here's the good news. God isn't afraid of your questions. He welcomes them. And He's not offended when you want to understand more deeply. That's not a threat to Him. It's intimacy. You're allowed to think. You're allowed to ask. You're allowed to learn with open eyes. And you're still fully, freely, and forever loved by God. Let's talk about the fourth sign. You were shamed for your identity or your desires. Maybe you were told to die to self so often. You stopped knowing who that self even was. Maybe you were praised for being quiet, modest, obedient, but punished when you showed strength, emotion, or curiosity. Maybe you were taught that your emotions were manipulative, your body was a temptation, and your dreams were distractions. And slowly, painfully, you learned to feel ashamed of simply being human. This is what purity culture, rigid gender roles, and distorted theology can do. They don't just silence you. They make you feel like who you are is a problem. Dr. Laura Anderson explains that trauma often begins here, when a young woman is taught to feel guilt for her body, to fear her thoughts, to repress her boundaries in the name of servanthood. And Diane Langberg writes, "When good words are built with arrogance, coercion, and aggression, the outcome is hideous." You may have heard that your emotions were sinful, that your voice was too loud, that your questions were prideful, that your desire for love, closeness, or understanding was flesh. And even if no one said it directly, you were trained to associate your femininity with danger. But hear me. You were not wrong for being expressive. You were not impure for being passionate. You were not sinful for longing to be seen. Your emotions are not evidence of rebellion. They are evidence that you're alive. Your body is not a curse. It is the temple of a God who made you in His image. Your voice is not too much. It's the sound of your soul waking up. If they made you feel like being a godly woman meant being small, silent, or self-erasing, they misrepresented the heart of God. Jesus didn't shame women for feeling. He didn't shrink them for speaking. He didn't condemn them for being bold, emotional, or real. He met them with dignity. He healed them with honor. He lifted them back into their own skin and called them worthy. So if shame was your teacher, let truth be your healer. You are not too much. You are not impure. You are not broken. You are beloved. This last sign is one most people miss, but it may be the most important one to understand. Your body still reacts like you're unsafe, even after leaving the church, even after saying, "I've moved on," even after forgiving, praying, and trying to let it go. Your body remembers. You feel anxious during worship songs. You tense up when someone quotes scripture. You avoid church buildings, small groups, or even certain Bible passages. And you don't fully understand why. That's not overreaction. That's not bitterness. That's not weakness. That's trauma. Dr. Laura Anderson reminds us, religious trauma doesn't just affect the mind, it lives in the body. When you were spiritually manipulated, shamed, silenced, or violated, your nervous system learned to protect you. Maybe you dissociated during sermons. Maybe you stopped breathing when your pastor raised his voice. Maybe your stomach knotted every time the word submission came up. These weren't just feelings. They were responses. Your body trying to say, something's not safe here. And even now, in calmer places, those signals can still fire, because your body hasn't caught up to the truth that you're no longer in danger. So let me say it clearly. For the part of you that still flinches, you are safe now. You are no longer under their control. You do not owe anyone access to your body, your trust, or your spirit. And if your heart races or your hands tremble when you walk past a church, that's not spiritual failure. That's the wisdom of survival. Jesus understands trauma. He bore it in his body. He wept. He bled. He trembled. And he never once shamed anyone for their wounds. So if your body still cries out, listen, honor it, comfort it, remind it gently. We're not there anymore. We're free. Religious trauma isn't just what was done to you. It's what your soul had to carry to survive it. And healing isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about learning you don't have to live afraid anymore. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are a survivor. And you are still, miraculously, loved by God. You made it to the end. If your heart feels a little shaky, a little cracked open, that's okay. That means you're waking up. Religious trauma isn't just about what someone did to you. It's about the sacred parts of you that were shamed, silenced, or erased in God's name. But those parts, they're still here. They're still yours. And they are still worthy of healing. You're not alone in this journey. You don't have to prove your pain to anyone. You don't have to rush forgiveness. And you don't have to stay in a place that breaks you just because it calls itself church. If you're looking for a soft place to rest, this channel was created for you. And if you'd like to help keep this space open for the next woman who needs it, you can do that gently and freely at Ko-fi.com/spiritual healing coach. No pressure, no guilt, just an open hand. Take what you need and leave the rest. You are safe here, and you are still fully, completely loved by God.